Hello, this is Dr. Nancy O'Reilly, and I would like to welcome you to Smart Amazing Conversations with Dr. Nancy, a podcast that takes a look at stories of life and leadership for smart, amazing women and men like you.
The most important thing is showing up. Don't think that you have to bring anything. Bring yourself, show up, and remain steadfast and be a...
If you are in a position of leadership and a position of management, bring women along with you.
Supporting women is my passion and my purpose, and talking with other women and men who promote women's leadership is one of my favorite things to do.
I've yet to meet a woman who did not know what she really wanted. She was just either afraid to ask the questions or she was afraid of what the answers meant.
Their stories connect us and help us to understand that the possibilities are endless if we support each other and lift other women up.
Trust is created by persistent identity. I show up as myself time and time and time again, and trust is built. It's one conversation at a time.
Hello, I'm Dr. Nancy O'Reilly, and I'm happy to welcome Shelly Bhowmik to Smart Amazing Conversations with Dr. Nancy. Shelly is an MD, MPH, a founder of Platform Wellness, and the creator of REST, R-E-S-T, a burnout prevention method. She empowers women and people of color to enjoy professional growth and success without having to sacrifice personal health and well-being. Her work is based upon the belief that mindset is medicine, a belief she came to realize on her own journey at the edge of a subway platform. I saw that. I read that. Dr. Bhowmik is a double board certified physician specializing in prevention and lifestyle medicine. She earned her medical degree from George Washington University and completed a residency training at Johns Hopkins. Her previous roles include a design thinking strategist for Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles and serving as a medical director of digital health for the executive health firm in New York City. So I'm very happy to welcome you to Conversations with Dr. Nancy. Well, this is a very interesting topic, and as I mentioned earlier, I was a director of an employee assistance program in a large healthcare system. Not only were we taking care of the employees of this large healthcare system, we had contracts with over 100 companies. So, I mean, I'm very familiar with burnout, and this is a huge problem. It always has been. And prevention has always been in the back of my mind. In fact, that's why I went into the EAP business. And basically, as a psychologist, I did what they call brief strategic therapy. So your background is perfect. So, okay, let's talk about burnout. Well, first I want to say it's time to thrive. Yes, I love that. It's time to thrive. And the question that you often ask, and I'm going to ask you, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you. Enjoying these last few days of summer and gearing up for this new year for me, because my birthday is in August and because of the school year starting in September. For me, this is like when I do my New Year's resolutions, when I think about my goals for the upcoming years. I'm very much in that headspace right now.
Fantastic. Yeah. Well, I'm glad I get to talk to you today because that's exciting. That's very exciting. The new chapter, the next chapter. I love those things. Okay. Well, burnout is a huge problem. One of the things I really want to talk about too is women that have left the workplace since COVID. COVID, of course, has created a whole different scenario for all of us. Some of it's positive and some of it's not so positive. But let's define what burnout is.
Sure. So I'll give you two definitions. I'm going to give you the textbook definition first, and then I'll give you my own personal take on what burnout is for me. So the textbook definition, burnout, it's an occupational syndrome, and this was identified by the World Health Organization in 2019. So they define it as an occupational syndrome, not a disease, but it's due to chronic workplace stress that's not well managed. And in particular, there are three main characteristics. So the first is low energy, feelings of depletion. The second is depersonalization, so feelings of negativism or cynicism related to the work that you're doing. And the third is a lack of professional efficacy. So decrease in performance is a good way to think about it. So Yeah, that's the textbook definition for burnout. For me personally, I like to think of it as when you are acting without intention. You know, when you are reacting to situations instead of responding to situations in a way that is more in line with your values and what you believe. So, you know, so when you find yourself on autopilot and constantly putting out fires, that's what I kind of consider burnout to be.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to talk, I want to ask you about your personal story, but, you know, one of the things that you talk about is not feeling you're enough. And this is actually a pretty common syndrome for many, many women, and I'm sure men as well. But women, again, feeling that they're not enough, they're not good enough, they don't, you know, they aren't educated enough, they don't have enough experience. And so burnout is, women especially are very susceptible to burnout, both definitions that you described. But let's talk about your personal story, because none of us do anything without reasons. And your reasons, you know, same thing, I'm talking to you as a psychologist today. I could tell you my story and you would understand why I'm doing what I'm doing today. But you're beautiful, you're extremely intelligent, you've got all this wonderful education, and women will look at you, and men as well, and they'll go, oh, it's so easy for her. And this is why I asked about this story, is because oftentimes we find that we all, in that chink, in that armor is a chink, you know, a chink in the armor, so to speak. But why do you do what you do? How did you become you?
Sure. How did I become me? Oh, that's a
Absolutely.
How much time do you have? You know, I'll try to shorten it. But this work that I'm doing, starting Platform Wellness, it really comes out of my own personal experience with chronic stress and burnouts and mental health issues. You know, I mean, mental health issues, depression, that's something that I've dealt on and off with over the years, ever since my mom had passed away from cancer when I was in college, woven its way in and out of my life. But the beginning of 2020, so just before COVID had really hit the US, I found myself in a pretty bad place. And the scary part, though, was that I didn't realize it. I didn't realize just how bad things had gotten until literally a Friday evening rush hour in New York City, standing at the edge of that subway platform, you know, thinking about pushing myself over that edge. And, you know, for me, that was such a pivotal moment. I had never experienced anything like it before. It was really scary. And to step away from that edge, literally, figuratively, was a journey in and of itself.
Yeah.
And, you know, in that journey, in that recovery process, I like to say, you know, I'm one of those individuals who was so thankful to go into lockdown at the start of the pandemic, because I needed that time and that space to heal. Right. And so it was during that time period that I was able to, you know, just look inward and, you know, through help of others around me, be able to understand why I had gotten to that edge. And in particular, this is getting to your feelings of not enough. This is where this comes into play. For me, I realized that colorism actually played a really big role in terms of leading me to that edge. And, you know, so I'll explain for those who are watching, I'm South Asian, I have dark skin. In our culture, if you have dark skin, you are considered less than somebody with fair skin. And I know that's true in other cultures as well. But this is a message that I absorbed very, very early on in my childhood. And, you know, I took that to mean that I wasn't enough. What I didn't realize was that this idea then permeated into literally every single aspect of my life moving forward. You know, so this idea of not being enough, that meant, you know, I would tell myself, oh, okay, well, if I'm not enough, then I have to get 100 on the social studies test, or I have to be the best, you know, piano player at the recital, or I have to, you know, it would just build on itself. I would, that perfectionism would end up fueling the burnout and end up leading me, pushing me to that edge. And so being able to identify that limiting belief, and then also feeling empowered enough to, you know, to recognize that I don't have to believe that I can detangle it, I can dismantle it and put something else in place of it. That was so eye-opening for me. I laugh at thinking about it now, that it didn't occur to me that that didn't have to be my truth or my reality. But yeah, once I realized that I could choose what to think of myself, what to believe, that was such a game changer for me. And so, it's truly been transformational for me. And as a physician, I feel like it's my duty to make sure that I pass on this message of mindset being medicine. I want to make sure I pass on that message to other women, to other people of color, because at the end of the day, I don't want them ending up at that same edge or extreme. And so that's why I started Platform Wellness, really to help individuals, to help, working with organizations to support their employees with this issue of burnout, because it's just so, everyone's dealing with it.
Wow. Well, I guess, the important thing is that you did have your pivotal moment, and that you did not. And unfortunately, there are people that don't have that moment. They just never ever recover. Do you share your personal story with people and corporations, or when you're working in the prevention programs to tell them about the story, because the story is so powerful, and I think that's what we women often forget, is that when we show our vulnerability and we share our vulnerability, that really opens all these opportunities to really have a dialogue about really what is going on, and where what you've attained and acquired from it, and continue to learn from it, because this is something day to day that we all have to deal with, is moment to moment. Who are we? Moment to moment. Am I enough? And burnout, of course, everyone is susceptible to, and strong women. And I'm sure, I'm susceptible too, is that strong women don't ask for help. And this is something, as a psychologist, that I have really spent many, many years talking to women about, is asking for help, asking for what you want, but also asking for help. But this is so important. So let's start at the beginning then. Okay. I need to know, I want to detect my stress. I want to know that am I susceptible, and am I beginning to have the symptoms of stress? Because oftentimes people, as you said, you just go through the motions and you're just doing your day-to-day stuff, and maybe you don't, and this depersonalization you talked about, that can happen pretty quickly, especially if you're extremely high achiever. You're in a very high level position and a very active position. I mean, it can happen quickly because you're so busy. And of course, women double time. Do you have children?
I don't. I have a niece and nephew, but no children of my own, not yet.
But again, family and home, you have to double time it. And again, women don't ask for help when they get home either. So how do I detect stress? What do I need to know today that I'm sitting here and I think I'm fine? I think I'm okay.
Yeah, no, it's a really great question. And you asked me earlier whether or not I share my personal story when I am working with individuals and organizations, and the answer is yes, absolutely, because I realized that I'm a physician. I have so many years of education and training under my belt, and I didn't even realize what was happening. I didn't see what was happening because I was in it. All the flames, all the smoke were surrounding me, so I couldn't see what others potentially could see. Right. And so I know that there are other people who don't have the same, training and education that I have when it comes to health and wellness. Right. And so being able to help them understand, okay, the things that you're experiencing, that's not normal. You shouldn't necessarily be feeling those every single day. And so yes, I have a framework that I call REST, as you mentioned in the introduction.
It's rest, thrive, and what is it? Rest, thrive, and
revive, strive, and thrive.
Revive. Oh, darn it! Revive. Okay, so say it again.
Revive, strive, and thrive.
There you go. Okay.
That is what REST stands for. And it is a 3-part framework. So really to help individuals overcome burnout, to handle stress, to restore energy. The very first step, there are 9 steps total, but the very first step of that framework is to detect distress. There is no way that you're going to be able to solve a problem if you don't even know that the problem exists.
Right.
And so in the case of burnout, going back to the definition and those 3 characteristics, those are the things to look out for. But to make this more tangible for individuals, I say usually the most obvious signs and symptoms are the ones that you ignore the most, and that's the signs and symptoms that are coming from your own body. Yeah. And so I'll give you an example. Whether it is the neck pain, hair loss, GI issues, eczema flare-ups, weight gain, weight loss, all of these things potentially.
For me, it's sleep. If I can't sleep.
Yeah.
Because if you don't sleep, you can't repair and you can't thrive and you can't. But rest, to me, I love the name, because for me, that's the most important thing, is that if I can't relax and I can't sleep, I don't rejuvenate for the next day. So yeah, I mean, absolutely. We do have a lot. Everybody's different. I call it the chain. There's, we're like a chain, but there is a weak link in the chain. So everybody's different where that chain breaks. So it could be it could be your GI, it could be your. A friend of mine, we were going to go to dinner tonight, and I know she's one of these high-powered, hard-working women, but she has a severe headache that she ended up at urgent care. So tell me she doesn't have symptoms of stress, and to end up in the urgent care with a headache, that is
right.
That's pretty heavy duty stuff.
Yeah, and not going too much into the science of this, but basically what's happening in the body, the reason why you end up experiencing all these different symptoms is because of the chronic inflammation. Chronic stress causes this, these different chemical reactions in the body, this inflammatory response in the body, and that if you're constantly exposed to that, your system starts to wear down. There's a wear and tear. And so again, it depends on, for different individuals, it shows up in different ways, like GI or like, the headaches, the migraines. But yeah, those are some of those, the alarm bells that the body is trying to give to you to say, hey, something isn't right. We have to address the root cause of all this.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, and unfortunately, many of us, including myself, probably wait too long until some of those physical symptoms do start to cause some repercussions as far as your body. As I mentioned earlier, I was a director of an EAP and worked in a large healthcare system along with other corporations that we had contracts with. But the most important thing that we would talk about is home and family and work, because people don't understand. If you're having trouble at home, you're going to have trouble at work. If you have trouble at work, you're probably going to have trouble at home. Because we human beings have to it's kind of a balancing act, and some people rush to work because they can't deal with home, but they still have to deal with home, or they rush to, vice versa, they rush home because they can't, so it really is important for people to know that it is okay to start understanding that they're worth it, and that their health is more important. Let's see, what did you say? Something. Being health means being whole. I like that. Yeah. Being healthy means being whole. So, you talked about what is the severity of this problem? McKinsey report, you talked about that a little bit, but what is the enormous, what's the enormity to this problem?
Yeah, no, this is a really big issue. That a lot of companies, a lot of industries are having to face now. And this McKinsey study is just, one of the many, reports that are coming out about the magnitude of this problem. But, earlier this year in the springtime, McKinsey had put out a report, a survey that they had done of over 15,000 employees worldwide, to ask them about their health and well-being. And there were many different findings in that study, but in particular, one that really stood out to me was that out of the individuals who report feeling burned out, so those who report high levels of burnout, more than 50% of those individuals plan to leave in the next 3 to 6 months. Yeah. So if you can imagine that, think of how many people that is. Think of how many people around you are saying that they're burned out, and And imagine half of those people leaving the workplace. That's huge. That's a huge impact.
Well, and half of those women during COVID were women, and we've got to get back to work. But again, the stress of, how am I going to take kids running to school? How am I going to take care of my kids? How am I going to take care of my family? I can't be at work. My husband's working, whatever. Somebody's got to be at home. So, I mean, COVID was definitely, was really an eye opener for so many, many people. But okay. So what can we do about this? Because, I mean, again, identifying is number one. Do I have it? And now what do I do about it?
Yeah, well, you alluded to this earlier, and it's so important. It's one of the steps in the framework itself, but seeking support, being able to surround yourself with people that you can lean on. I mean, especially in times of stress, human beings, we rely on one another to keep us safe and healthy. This was for our survival benefits in terms of, evolution, and we need to be in community. And I want to remind folks too that it doesn't necessarily have to be, folks that, like your immediate family members or your immediate coworkers. The community that you end up creating, or that inner circle that you end up creating to help you get through, could look very different. It could be the barista serving you the coffee every day, who is just always so kind and caring and asking you how your day is going, and really means it. That can be part of your support system. So being able to identify the individuals in your life who you can lean on and be vulnerable with, that is such a huge component to this.
Yeah. Well, for me during COVID, I actually kind of enjoyed not going to 20 meetings and traveling and going to conferences, because everything became virtual. In fact, I just did a conference a couple of days ago. I was there physically, but the number of people that were in the room versus the number of people that were virtual, the people that were virtual doubled the people that were in the room. So I think what COVID has done for many of us has given us choices. And what you're saying is so important, is support. But I don't know about you, but I think I've decided who I really want to spend time with, and who I really want to be with, and what I do. And I think I hope more people during COVID really had that opportunity to really make some good decisions, because burnout really is about, in some ways, trying to do everything for everybody and not realizing you just can't do it. You cannot do it. So COVID's been a great thing, and for many, many people. So, okay, so now let's talk a little bit about corporations, because I think, and of course, I felt like the corporation that I was working for, the healthcare system I was working for, it is a responsible thing to do, to have a employee assistance program, which basically says, this is for you to make sure that you're healthy and your well-being. I care about your well-being, and I want to make sure that you're able to do your job. So, corporations really do have to take a different view. These are, the talent during burnout a lot of times walks out the door. Your training and these experienced, talented people are leaving your corporations. And my goodness gracious, you spend a lot of money training them. So what do these corporations need to do?
Yeah, this goes back to the McKinsey study that I was talking about earlier. They talk about this point exactly in terms of the highest performers, that they're the ones that are leaving the workforce because they know that they have other choices, other options. And a colleague of mine was recently talking about how it's not the great resignation, it's the great reprioritization. It's folks being able to now choose, wait, this is what I want in terms of my professional and personal life. And
I don't have to do this. I don't want to work in a place if they don't respect me and they don't appreciate me. Why should I stay here?
Yeah. And, a lot of times the solutions that will be deployed in these workplace settings, they're focused on the individual, so they might be a meditation app, or they might be free therapy sessions. And all of that is great. We do need that individual support to help employees with burnout. But at the end of the day, this is an organizational issue. It's a cultural issue. And so being able to establish a culture of psychological safety within an organization, being able to create that environment where employees do feel safe going to one another or going to the higher ups, if they're not,
or just saying, I'm going to go to the AP. I need to go to the AP.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Feeling like if they know I'm going to the AP, they'll wonder if I'm okay or not. So yeah,
right.
It is a cultural.
Normalizing it, that takes a lot of work to be able to shift the culture. But at the end of the day, if we really want to prevent burnout on a greater scale, that's what we have to do. We have to normalize this, we have to normalize being able to get help when we need help.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the bottom line right there, Dr. Shelly, is that asking for help is okay. We just have to learn to do that. Men, women, it's just the fact that, none of us, I don't know, you didn't get it where you are by yourself, did you?
Oh, God, no.
I didn't either. Nobody gets anywhere by themselves, but for some reason we get to a point in our life that, I've got to do this all myself, but we don't. Our support systems and the people that love and care about us are there, but we have to ask and bring them in. But anytime I've asked for help, everything comes through. It's threefold. If you give someone help, it comes back threefold. It's always the way it works. At least it has in my life. But all right, well, you've got this wonderful program, and our 30 minutes just buzzed by because we were having such a great conversation. I really enjoy. I'd love to stay connected with you. This is a great program. It's something that we can definitely help promote. And I have someone I want to introduce you to, Dr. Sheila Robinson. I don't know if you know her, Diversity Women's Magazine. You are a perfect match for her and what she does. In fact, we just had a conference in Myrtle Beach, a wellness conference, and you would be an excellent speaker for that conference. And so what I'd like to do is make that introduction for you and Sheila. Dr. Shelly and Dr. Sheila and Dr. Shelly. Okay, that would be wonderful. Yes. But okay, well, let's talk just a little bit about you. Where do we find more about you now? And talk about your Rest, Revive, Strive, Thrive, your rest program, your prevention program for burnout, and the 9 steps coaching method to help you detect stress.
Yeah. Well, ShellyBhowmik.com is where you can find all of the information. You can get in touch with me through the website as well. In particular, there's a masterclass that goes through the 9 steps of the REST framework in detail. So if folks are interested in learning more, definitely go to the website. You'll see the link for the free masterclass, and you can sign up and just learn more about the program and see if it can be helpful for you.
I would like, if with your permission, of course, is to put a link to that on the website. Yes. So that people can access your method, your program. And again, the introduction to Dr. Sheila. What Women Connect for Good does, by the way, this is what we do, is we connect people and organizations. This is what we do. And you are an excellent fit for what we do, but there's many other organizations I'd like to connect you with. So this has been delightful. Prevention and education is really my forte, and that's what it's all about for me. I don't see people any longer. So right now it's all about education for me, but this conversation was extremely valuable, and many people need to see it and hear about what's going on. So my goal is to stay connected with you. And we have what they call the Lift Women Up campaign. And this is women of color. This is every woman, but it's lifting other women. As you rise, you lift other women. And this is part of that. You can really avoid burnout if you lift as you rise. If you're rising with other people, everybody wins. So this is a win.
Right.
So you are wonderful. You're delightful. And I wish you only the best things in life. So let's stay connected. I will be getting in touch with you, probably Melissa or Kathy that you've connected with before. We'll get some information. And like I said, Dr. Sheila and Dr. Shelly must meet each other.
That sounds amazing. No, this was wonderful. Thank you so much for having me for this conversation. Always a pleasure.
You're very welcome. Your last words of wisdom that you might share with us all. What would you like to say before you leave?
Mindset is medicine. Mindset is medicine. As long as you act with intention and integrity, you can get yourself out of burnout.
Yeah. Each moment we can choose. And people forget that each moment is ours to choose. So I have loved choosing to be with you today. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful day, and we will stay connected.
Amazing. Thank you again.
Have a good day. Thank you. See you later.
Bye.
Bye-bye. If you enjoy these smart, amazing conversations, please subscribe, rate, and review them on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. And read and enjoy more amazing stories in my books, In This Together, How Successful Women Support Each Other in Work and Life, and Leading Women, 20 Influential Women Share Their Secrets to Leadership, Business, and Life. Thank you for listening.